Let me just vent for a second, because this whole situation with the media is beyond absurd. It's laughable. No, actually, it's infuriating how these so-called mainstream journalists and their network overlords are still pretending to be shocked. Shocked, I tell you, by the fact that nobody trusts them anymore. Like, are you kidding me? Every time the trust in media conversation comes up, they act like it's some unfathomable mystery. Oh, why don't people believe us? Really? Are you actually this clueless? Or are you just hoping we are? Here's the thing. It's not rocket science. It's painfully obvious why trust is at an all-time low. They've played us for fools for years, spinning narratives, shoving agendas down our throats, and thinking we're too dumb to notice. Guess what? We noticed. We always noticed. And now they're scrambling because the jig is up. It's like they're running a con and can't figure out why the marks are catching on. It's because your lies are as subtle as a sledgehammer. Take CNN, for example. A new ownership group takes over and suddenly they're all, we're going to reform the network. We're serious journalists now. Sure, okay. They fire Brian Stelter, Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon, basically the poster children for overt bias, and bring in a fresh lineup. And who do they add? Abby Phillip. Oh, Abby Phillip. You know her, right? She's basically CNN's version of Kristen Welker from NBC, pretending to be a neutral, facts-only journalist, but in reality, another establishment puppet. The whole neutral journalist act? Please. Abby Phillip is just another talking head standing on her soapbox, pretending to ask innocent questions while subtly steering the narrative exactly where the powers that be want it to go. And Kristen Welker? Same energy. They're like the wolves who swapped out their sheep costumes for business suits, thinking nobody would notice. But we do, every time. And let me just bring this home with a clip that says it all. Abby Phillip doing her thing, interviewing Scott Jennings and Representative Mike Lawler. Everything's fine until the conversation veers off script. The second a little truth sneaks into the room, Abby's mask slips. It's wild. The way she scrambles to regain control of the narrative is almost impressive. Almost.
I'm still waiting.
Speculative?
After 4 years of Donald Trump.
Did money not change hands?
Scott.
Did it not?
4 years of Donald Trump, 4 years of a Joe Biden DOJ looking into these very things. I'm still waiting to see.
Well, he can't be charged. He's the president.
Right? I'm
Joe
still
Biden
waiting.
Can't be charged.
I'm not talking about charges. I'm still waiting to see the proof of Joe Biden enriching himself. I take his brother and his son, perhaps.
I'll give you
the
direct line.
Otherwise,
I'll give you the direct
your colleague, James Comer, could have produced the evidence, and he didn't.
He did. A Chinese company transferred money to a shell company owned by Hunter and Jim Biden that then transferred money directly to Jim and Sarah Biden's shell company that then transferred the money to Jim and Sarah's personal account, who then immediately wrote a check for $40,000 to Joe Biden. So to say that there was no evidence, to say there was no evidence is not true. It's not true.
What I'm saying is that Trump was president for 4 years. He wanted to charge Joe Biden. Why did the charges not come? And I think that still remains an open question. If there is something illegal happening here, there should be charges on the basis of what you're saying, and there have not been.
He just pardoned Hunter
that is
for an 11-year time period.
He pardoned Hunter Biden.
An 11-year time period.
He just wiped the slate.
Hang on, guys.
Jim will be next, by the way.
We're waiting for the charges, and when the charges come, we'll have a conversation about that. I promise you that. Solomon Jones, thank you very much for joining us. Everyone else, hang tight. Coming up next.
This right here is exactly why the mainstream media is circling the drain. Every time Joe Biden's alleged influence peddling gets mentioned, they pull the same tired stunt. Abby Phillip goes from pretending to be a journalist just asking questions to flipping the script into full-on Democratic PR mode. It's like clockwork. She starts parroting the same overused talking points. Where's the proof Joe Biden enriched himself? There's no evidence of wrongdoing or involvement from the president. Seriously? Are we supposed to buy this? Either these people are living in a cushy New York bubble, blissfully unaware of reality, or they're deliberately lying to our faces. And honestly, I'm betting on the latter. No evidence? That's not just wrong. It's downright insulting. Let's break this down, shall we? The so-called no evidence claim is a joke, and anyone who's paying attention knows it. How about we start with the most glaring, in-your-face piece of evidence? Let's talk about Tony Bobulinski. Remember him? Yeah, the guy who laid it all out in no uncertain terms. His testimony? A direct smoking gun. But of course, people like Abby Phillip conveniently ignore this because it doesn't fit their narrative. Instead, they double down, acting like the rest of us are too dumb to see what's right in front of us. It's exhausting, honestly. This is why trust in the media is in the gutter. They've earned it.
Shows 20% for H. H is Hunter Biden. 20% for RW is Rob Walker. 20% for JG is James Gilliar. 20% for TB, that's me, Tony Bobulinski. And then it says 10 for Jim, and that's Jim Biden. And then it says 10 held for H for the big guy. The H in that message is Hunter Biden, and the big guy, 100%, is Joe Biden.
Why do you say that 100%?
It's crystal clear. There was nobody else who they would be listing as the big guy.
Let me just lay it all out because this whole situation is beyond frustrating. Every time Joe Biden's alleged influence peddling comes up, the mainstream media locks arms like a human shield to protect him. And leading the charge? Abby Phillip at CNN, your classic example of a media figure pretending to be an objective journalist while shamelessly running interference for the establishment. Watching her squirm and pivot whenever the facts start creeping in is infuriating, but it's also downright predictable. Let's start with the basics. Tony Bobulinski, Hunter Biden's own business partner, didn't just throw out some vague accusation. He didn't imply or suggest anything. He confirmed that Joe Biden was directly involved in their shady business dealings. The emails are there, the documents are there, and Joe Biden's nickname, the big guy, is literally referenced in a deal where Hunter Biden talks about reserving a 10% cut for his dad in a partnership with a Chinese energy company tied to the Communist Party. This isn't some anonymous source throwing out wild claims. It's not a disgruntled employee or some political hack with an agenda. This is a first-hand witness who was in the room, involved in the discussions, and has the receipts to prove it. Yet here comes Abby Phillip and her cohorts saying, there's no evidence Joe Biden was involved. Are you kidding me? And we're supposed to take this seriously? How about that infamous text from Hunter Biden, where he straight up threatens a Chinese energy executive? I'm sitting here with my father, Hunter writes. He demands that the deal be honored, going so far as to say he'll unleash his father's connections and influence if the terms aren't met. This isn't subtle. This isn't ambiguous. This is as clear as it gets. And what does the media say? Oh, that doesn't prove anything. Really? Hunter Biden is throwing his dad's name around like a mob boss sitting there with Joe Biden in the same room, and somehow that's not evidence? Give me a freaking break. But let's not stop there. Let's talk about Joe Biden's lifestyle. Multiple beachfront properties, an undeniably luxurious way of living. And all of this on what? A government salary? Biden doesn't own a business. He doesn't manufacture or sell anything. There's no Biden Widgets Inc. or Biden & Sons law firm. His career has been in public service, earning a modest congressional salary for decades. So where's the money coming from? And let's not get the financial disclosure he released when he first took office, showing that he raked in $16 million in a single year. $16 million. Doing what exactly? If that's passive income, where did the capital for those investments come from? This isn't just a question of optics. It's a glaring red flag. Yet the media pretends there's nothing to see here. The most maddening part of all this isn't just the corruption, it's the gaslighting. The media doesn't just ignore the evidence. They actively dismiss it and attack anyone who dares to ask legitimate questions. They label it a conspiracy theory, roll their eyes, and move on as if we're all delusional for noticing the obvious. And Abby Phillip, she's the poster child for this nonsense. Watch her in action and you'll see exactly how it works. The second someone brings up something that doesn't align with the pre-approved narrative, she shuts it down. She changes the subject, pretends it's not worth discussing, or flat out ends the segment. She's not a journalist. She's a gatekeeper, making sure the public only sees the story her network wants to tell. But here's the thing, it's not working anymore. People see through it. Trust in the media is at an all-time low because they've earned that distrust. They don't hold power accountable. They shield it. They don't dig for the truth. They bury it. And the worst part, they treat their audience like idiots, assuming we won't notice the blatant contradictions and outright lies. The evidence against Joe Biden isn't just there, it's overwhelming. From Tony Bobulinski's firsthand testimony to the web of shell companies, the suspicious financial transactions, the shady emails, and Hunter Biden's own mob-like threats, there's more than enough to justify a serious investigation. But instead of demanding accountability, the media plays defense, smearing anyone who dares to bring it up, and pretending there's no merit to the claims. And for what? To maintain their access, to protect their political allies? Whatever the reason, it's pathetic. It's a betrayal of everything journalism is supposed to stand for. The American people deserve the truth. They deserve reporters who ask the hard questions and hold power accountable, not activists posing as journalists. Abby Phillips' performance at CNN isn't just embarrassing. It's a symptom of a much deeper problem. The media isn't here to inform or investigate anymore. They're here to protect their own, to shield the establishment, and to gaslight the public into thinking they're the crazy ones for noticing the obvious. This is why trust in the media is in the gutter. This is why people are tuning out. And this is why the entire institution needs a reckoning. Until then, we're left to sift through the nonsense and fight for the truth ourselves. Thanks for sticking with me through this rant. The fight isn't over, and I'll see you in the next one.